Anthony Frank Tony Iommi is an English guitarist, songwriter and producer. Best known as lead guitarist and founding member of the pioneering heavy metal band Black Sabbath, he has been the band's sole continual member and primary composer. While working in a factory as a teenager, Iommi lost the tips of two of his fingers in an accident, an event which crucially affected his playing style. Iommi briefly left Black Sabbath in 1968 to join Jethro Tull, after which he returned to Black Sabbath. In 2000, he released his first solo album Iommi, followed by 2005's Fused, which featured his former bandmate Glenn Hughes. After releasing Fused, he joined Heaven and Hell, which disbanded after Ronnie James Dio's death in 2010. Iommi is widely considered as the godfather of heavy metal and one of the greatest and most influential rock guitarists of all time. A prolific riff-maker, he was ranked number 25 in Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. In 2011, he published his autobiography, entitled Iron Man, My Journey Through Heaven and Hell with Black Sabbath. Early life: Anthony Frank Iommi was born in Birmingham, the only child of Anthony Frank and Sylvia Maria Iommi. His mother's family were vineyard owners in Italy. The family were Catholic but rarely attended Mass. The family home in the Park Lane area of Aston also housed a shop which was a popular meeting place in the neighborhood. The family living room doubled as the shop's stockroom. His mother ran the shop while his father was a carpenter by trade. Born and raised in Handsworth, Birmingham, he attended Birchfield Road School, where future bandmate Ozzy Osbourne was also a student 1 year behind him. At age 8 or 9, Iommi fell and badly cut his upper lip as another boy chased him. As a result, he gained the nickname Scarface, which caused him to become self-conscious of the scar, and he eventually grew his trademark mustache as a means of covering it. At approximately age 10 he began working out and learned judo, karate, and later boxing as a means of protecting himself from the local gangs who congregated in his neighborhood. He became so good at boxing that he envisioned a future as a bouncer in a nightclub, thus avoiding a career in a boring factory job. Iommi initially wanted to play the drums, but due to the excessive noise they produce he chose the guitar instead as a teenager, after being inspired by the likes of Hank Marvin and the Shadows. He has always played guitar left-handed. After completing school, Iommi worked briefly as a plumber and later in a factory manufacturing rings. He states that at one point he worked in a music store but quit after being falsely accused of stealing. In an industrial accident at the age of 17 on his last day of work in a sheet metal factory, Iommi lost the tips of the middle and ring finger of his right hand. After the injury, Iommi considered abandoning the guitar entirely. However, his factory foreman played him a recording of famous jazz guitarist Django Reinhardt, which encouraged him to continue as a musician. As Iommi would later write, "My friend said, 'Listen to this guy play,' and I went, 'No way. Listening to someone play the guitar is the very last thing I want to do right now.' But he kept insisting and he ended up playing the record for me. I told him I thought it was really good and then he said, 'You know, the guy's only playing with two fingers on his fretboard hand because of an injury he sustained in a terrible fire.' I was totally knocked back by this revelation and was so impressed by what I had just heard that I suddenly became inspired to start trying to play again." Inspired by Reinhardt's two-fingered guitar playing, Iommi decided to try playing guitar again, though the injury made it quite painful to do so. Although it was an option, Iommi never seriously considered switching hands and learning to play right-handed. In an interview with Guitar World magazine, he was asked if he was ever tempted to switch to right-handed playing. Iommi responded, "If I knew what I know now I probably would have switched. At the time I had already been playing 2 or 3 years, and it seemed like I had been playing a long time. I thought a unregistered trademark D never be able to change the way I played. The reality of the situation was that I hardly unregistered trademark T been playing very long at all, and I probably could have spent the same amount of time learning to play right-handed. I did have a go at it, but I just didn't unregistered trademark T have the patience. It seemed impossible to me. I decided to make do with what I had, and I made some plastic fingertips for myself." I just persevered with it." In his autobiography, he writes, "Probably the easiest thing would have been to flip the guitar upside down and learn to play right-handed instead of left-handed. I wish I had in hindsight, but I thought, well, I've been playing for a few years already, it's going to take me another few years to learn it that way. That seemed like a very long time, so I was determined to keep playing left-handed." In any case, he decided to continue playing left-handed. To do so, he fitted homemade thimbles made from melted-down plastic bottles to his injured fingers to extend and protect them, which created two technical problems. Firstly, the thimbles prevented him from feeling the strings, causing a tendency to press down very hard with them. Secondly, he had difficulty bending strings, leading him to seek light-gauge guitar strings to make it easier to do so. However, Iommi recalls that such strings were not manufactured at the time, so he used banjo strings instead, until around 1970 or Euro 71 when piccato strings began making light-gauge guitar strings. Furthermore, he used the injured fingers predominantly for fretting chords rather than single-note solos. In 1974, Iommi told Guitar Player magazine that the thimbles helped with his technique, because he had to use his pinky finger more than he had to before the accident. Later, he also began tuning his guitar strings to lower pitches, sometimes as far as 3 semitones below standard guitar tuning. Although Iommi states that the main purpose of doing so was to create a bigger, heavier sound, slackening the strings makes it easier to bend them. Musical career: pre-Black Sabbath, Iommi has played in several blues rock bands, the earliest of which was the Rockin' Chevrolets from 1964 to 1965. The band had regular bookings, and when they were offered work in Germany, Iommi decided to leave his factory job to take up the opportunity. From 1966 to 1967 Iommi played in a band named The Rest. It was in The Rest that Iommi first met future Black Sabbath drummer Bill Ward, who performed drums and vocals in the band. From January 1968 until July 1968 Iommi was guitarist in Mythology, with Ward joining a month later in mid-February. In May 1968 police raided the group's practice flat and found cannabis resin, which resulted in fines for the band members. Most significantly, the incident made it quite difficult for the band to secure future bookings as most club owners avoided bands they viewed as drug users. Mythology subsequently split up after a gig in Slough on July 13, 1968. In August 1968 at the same time as the breakup of Mythology, another Birmingham band called Rare Breed also broke up. Rare Breed vocalist John Ozzy Osbourne joined with Iommi and Ward after the duo responded to an advert in a local music shop proclaiming Ozzy Zig needs gig a his own PA. Requiring a bassist, Osbourne mentioned his former Rare Breed bandmate Geezer Butler, who was subsequently hired along with slide guitarist Jimmy Phillips and saxophonist Alan Aker Clark. The six-piece band were named the Polka Tulk Blues Band. After just 2 gigs, Phillips and Clark were dismissed from the band, which soon after shortened its name to Polka Tulk. Earth and Jethro Tull. Iommi, Butler, Ward and Osbourne renamed the band Earth in September 1968. They carried on under this moniker until December 1968 when Iommi briefly departed to join Jethro Tull. However, after only 1 performance, Iommi was back with Earth once more. Iommi on his brief working relationship with Jethro Tull vocalist Ian Anderson. "I learned quite a lot from him, I must say. I learned that you have got to work at it. You have to rehearse. When I came back and I got the band back together, I made sure that everybody was up early in the morning and rehearsing. I used to go and pick them up. I was the only one at the time that could drive. I used to have to drive the bloody van and get them up at 8:45 every morning. Which was, believe me, early for us then. I said to them, this is how we have got to do it because this is how Jethro Tull did it. They had a schedule and they knew that they were going to work from this time till the time. I tried that with our band and we got into doing it. It worked. Instead of just strolling in at any hour, it made it more like we were saying, Lita unregistered trademark do it." Black Sabbath. In August 1969, After being confused with another group named Earth, the group renamed themselves Black Sabbath. His aforementioned factory accident affected the Black Sabbath sound later on, as by 1970 Iommi had detuned his guitar from E to A in registered trademark, and from 1971's Master of Reality album, had detuned it further to DA unregistered trademark, to ease the tension on his fingers. Black Sabbath bassist Geezer Butler did the same to match Iommi. Sabbath were among the first bands to detune, and the technique became a mainstay of heavy metal music. Iommi combined blues-like guitar solos and dark, minor key riffing with a revolutionary high-gain, heavily distorted tone with his use of a modified treble boosting effect pedal and a Gibson SG. By the 1970s, incessant drug usage, managerial problems and constant touring had taken its toll on the band, and Ozzy Osbourne was fired in 1979. Osbourne was replaced with Ronnie James Dio, the former vocalist for Rainbow. With Dio, Black Sabbath produced Heaven and Hell, prior to replacing Bill Ward with Vin Yapis. With Iommi and Geezer Butler the only original members, this lineup produced Mob Rules. During the 80s and 90s Iommi rebuilt the band with many lineup changes with vocalists including Ian Gillan, Glenn Hughes, Tony Martin and Ray Gillon. After Ian Gillan departed the band in 1984, Iommi recorded his first solo album, entitled Seventh Star. The album featured Glenn Hughes on vocals, but due to label pressures, it was billed as a release by Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. In 1992 Iommi appeared at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, playing 4 songs with the remaining members of Queen and other guest artists. In the following year Iommi teamed up with fellow black country band Diamond Head and co-wrote the song Star-Crossed for their 1993 Death and Progress album. At Ozzy's farewell concert at Costa Mesa in 1992, Dio refused to perform and abruptly left the band. As a result, Rob Halford was recruited to perform as the vocalist for 2 gigs. Following Osbourne's solo set, the show concluded with Ozzy bringing out the other members of the original Black Sabbath lineup for a 4-song reunion. Black Sabbath went on to record 2 further albums with Tony Martin before the original lineup reunited as a touring band in 1997. While Bill Ward played at the 2 initial reunion shows at Birmingham NEC in December 1997, he was not present for the following 2 reunion tours, his second absence due to a heart attack. Ward was replaced by Mike Bordin and then Vin Yapis. On November 11, 2011, the original band members announced that they were reuniting and recording a new album. The new album, 13, was released in June 2013. Solo career. In 2000, Iommi released his first proper solo album, titled Iommi. The album featured several guest vocalists including Ian Astbury, Skin, Henry Rollins, Serj Tankian, Dave Grohl, Billy Corgan, Phil Anselmo, Peter Steele and Ozzy Osbourne. In late 2004 Iommi's second solo album was released, entitled The 1996 DEP Sessions. This album was originally recorded in 1996 but was never officially released. However, a copy with a drum track by Dave Holland was available as a bootleg called Eighth Star. Glenn Hughes performed vocals on the album and he furthered his collaboration with Hughes with the release of his third solo album, Fused. Released on July 12, 2005, John Mellencamp drummer Kenny Aronoff completed the trio on the album. Iommi has signed with Mike Fleeza's movie production company Next Films to score a series of horror films entitled Black Sabbath. Since 1989 Tony Iommi was involved in the Rock Aid Armenia project. In October 2009 Iommi and his colleague Ian Gillan were awarded the Orders of Honor, Armenia's highest order, which were delivered to them by the Prime Minister of Armenia for their help after the Spitak earthquake. They formed the supergroup Who Cares and recorded a single called Out of My Mind, which was released May 6, 2011 for the benefit of the music school to be built in Gyumri, Armenia. In January 2012, when Iommi was announced to have early-stage lymphoma, Armenian Prime Minister sent a letter of support. "We know your spirit is strong as ever, and we do believe the genius of your inspiration that guides you through the work on the new Black Sabbath album will transform into a boost of strength and energy that you need now, when things look tough." Heaven and Hell. In October 2006 it was reported that Iommi would tour with Ronnie James Dio, Geezer Butler and Bill Ward again, but under the moniker Heaven and Hell. Later it was announced that Ward had decided not to participate and Vinny Appice was hired as his replacement. Rhino Records released the Dio Years album on April 3, 2007. The album showcased older tracks with Dio and also included 3 brand new songs recorded with Dio and Appice. The band started an American tour in April 2007 with Megadeth and Down as opening acts. The tour finished in November in England with the prospect of an album to follow in 2008. During this period the band's show at the New York Radio City Music Hall was released as both a live DVD and CD with a vinyl release in the UK in 2008. During the summer of 2008 the band embarked on the Metal Masters tour along with Judas Priest, Motor Paragraph Red and Testament. The band's first and only studio album, The Devil You Know, was released on April 28, 2009. In November 2008 Iommi had a star revealed on the Birmingham Walk of Stars. Dio passed away due to stomach cancer in May 2010 and on June 14, 2010, Iommi announced that Heaven and Hell would perform a one-off tribute to Ronnie James Dio at the High Voltage Festival, London on July 24, 2010. This was the band's last performance under the name. Eurovision Song Contest, Iommi wrote the song Lonely Planet, which was sung by Gosushn for Armenia in the 2013 Eurovision Song Contest. Personal life, Iommi purchased his first house in Stafford, England, in 1972. He also purchased the property next door for his parents. Iommi has been married 4 times. In the early 1970s Iommi married Susan Snowdon, who was related to British royal photographer Lord Snowdon. Iommi was introduced to Snowdon by Black Sabbath then-manager Patrick Meehan. The song Fluff, an Iommi instrumental composition later released on the Sabbath Bloody Sabbath album, was played as Snowdon walked down the aisle. Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham served as Iommi's best man for the ceremony. This marriage lasted for some 8 years, and Iommi said in a 1991 Guitar World interview that the troubled recording and mixing of Black Sabbath's 1976 album Technical Ecstasy caused the end of his marriage. Iommi married an American model named Melinda in 1980. They had a daughter, Toni Marie Iommi, in 1983, who was the vocalist for the now-defunct band Luna Mile. Iommi divorced Melinda in the mid-1980s. When Toni Marie was 12 years old, Iommi won custody of her after she was placed in foster care. Toni Marie has described her early childhood with a mentally unbalanced mother as difficult but says that her father finally saved her. She has stated that with her father she was able to regain her trust in other people. Mikko Lindström Paragraph M, guitarist with Finnish band HIM, became engaged to Toni Marie in August 2010. Indiana, 1986-7 Iommi met an Englishwoman named Valerie, and after a 6-year relationship they married. She had a son from a previous relationship named Jay. They divorced in the late 90s. Iommi confirmed in the same Guitar World interview referenced above that he has a son. He told Hitfield regarding the band's so-called Black album, that my son gave me a copy of your latest album. In 2005, Iommi married Maria Star Paragraph Home, formerly vocalist for Swedish heavy metal band Drain STH. They met around 1998, when Toni was working on music for Drain STH. After a year of talking on the phone, in 1999, Maria relocated to England and moved into Toni's home. On August 19, 2005, without telling anyone, Maria and Toni were wed at the Sunset Marquis Hotel, with only one witness present. On page 312 of his book, Toni calls the low-key wedding the best thing I ever did. During the mid-1980s Iommi was briefly engaged to rock musician Lita Ford. He co-produced her album The Bride Wore Black, which to date remains unreleased. Ford said in a 1989 Kerrang! Interview that there's a certain amount of bad blood between Toni and I due to her breaking off the engagement. On November 19, 2013, Iommi received an honorary Doctorate of Arts degree from Coventry University. The honorary degree came in recognition of his contribution to the world of popular music, and recognized his role as one of the founding fathers of heavy metal music and his status as one of the industry's most influential figures, the university said. Illness. In early 2012, Iommi was diagnosed with early stages of lymphoma, for which he has undergone successful treatment as of January 2013. Black Sabbath's 2013 tour dates have been arranged so that Iommi is free to return to the UK once every 6 weeks to have an antibody administered. On Friday 3 January 2014 in a New Year message, Iommi announced that he will be finishing his regular treatment sometime in the year. Legacy and influence. Tony Iommi is widely considered to be one of the greatest rock guitarists of all time. In 2005, Metal Hammer magazine ranked him number 1 on the poll of the Riff Lords, praising his highly distinctive style of fretzmanship that's economical yet crashingly effective. In 2007, Classic Rock magazine ranked him number 6 on their list of the 100 wildest guitar heroes. In 2011, Rolling Stone magazine ranked him number 25 in their list of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. Joel McIver ranked him the 6th greatest metal guitarist of all time. In 2012, readers of Guitar World ranked Iommi the 7th greatest rock guitarist of all time. Editors of the same magazine ranked him the greatest heavy metal guitarist of all time. Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull has said, Tony managed to turn his physical impairment around into something that makes him one of the guitar legends if not for his dexterity of playing but at least for the fact that his contribution to rock music is a unique one. Gene Simmons of Kiss regards him as the man who came up with the riffs that launched an army of guitar players, and Ronnie James Dio as the ultimate riff master. Furthermore, Iommi is recognized by many as the main creator of heavy metal music. Brian May of Queen considers him the true father of heavy metal. Eddie Van Halen states that without Tony, heavy metal wouldn't exist. He is the creator of heavy. And James Hetfield of Metallica, who was profoundly influenced by Iommi, defines him the king of the heavy riff. Rob Halford, vocalist for Judas Priest, when filling in for Ozzy Osbourne during an August 2004 concert in Philadelphia, introduced Iommi to the audience as the man who invented the heavy metal riff. Michael Amott of Carcass and Arch Enemy considers Iommi his guitar hero, and the world's greatest guitarist, because he invented the heavy tone and evil riff. According to Lamb of God singer Randy Blythe, Iommi is the reason heavy metal exists. He has been credited as the forerunner of other styles. Martin Popoff defines him the godfather of stoner rock. Jeff Kitts and Brad Twilinski of Guitar World assert that grunge, goth, thrash, industrial, death, doom, whatever. None of it would exist without Tony Iommi. According to the Hawaii Public Radio, it is hard to imagine Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains without Black Sabbath, and without Tony Iommi. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, Metallica, Slayer, Pantera and essentially every metal band can be traced to the musical framework found in Iommi compositions. Many notable musicians count Iommi as a major influence on their own playing. Some of them include Jeff Hanneman, Dimebag Darrell, Slash, Scott Ian, Zakk Wylde, Tom Morello, Billy Corgan, Kim Thayil, and Nick Oliveri. Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains was strongly influenced by Iommi's dark bendings, which he uses often. Andy LaRocque of King Diamond said that the clean guitar part of Sleepless Nights from the Conspiracy album is inspired by Iommi's playing on Never Say Die. Equipment. Iommi's deep and heavy sound was partly born out of necessity his revolutionary signature sound being the result of the accident and the subsequent down-tuning by 3 semitones. He said that his extreme volume was likewise necessary, because we were fed up with people talking over us while we were playing. Guitars. JD Custom SGs, built in Birmingham by luthier John Diggins sometime between 1975 and 1978, the guitar was first used for overdubs on the Heaven and Hell album and later became one of Iommi's main guitars. The guitar is equipped with a 24-fret neck with custom cross inlays, 4 control knobs, a disconnected second output jack, a hole for a master volume knob on the pickguard covered up with a black stopper and a highly distressed finish. He had 2 more built for him. One was made to the same specifications of his first JDSG with a red finish. Another one was made and used during the Born Again era, which can be seen on the music videos for Trashed and Zero the Hero. The differences are the finish, headstock, use of a stop-tail bridge, and use of rail humbuckers, as opposed to the 18-pole humbuckers on his two other versions. Gibson SG, also known as Monkey, a 1965 Gibson SG Special in red finish fitted with a Gibson P90 pickup in the bridge position and a custom-wound John Birch Simplux, a P90-style single coil in the neck position. The guitar became Iommi's main instrument after his White Stratocaster's neck pickup failed during the recording of Black Sabbath's self-titled album. Gibson Custom Shop SG, the guitar was built by the Gibson Custom Shop in Nashville after Iommi's specifications and finished in 1997. The guitar is one of two made as prototypes for the Gibson Custom Shop Limited Edition Iommi Special SG. The guitar features a neck with 24 frets and 4 control knobs, of which only 2 are active. On August 11, 2010, Iommi announced on his website that this guitar was stolen from the RJD tribute show that Heaven and Hell performed at High Voltage on July 24, 2010. He is asking that anyone with information or leads let them know. He is offering a reward for its safe return. Epiphone P94 Iommi SG, a stock Epiphone SG signature model in black finish fitted with P94 pickups, which is a version of the Gibson P90 pickup designed to fit into existing humbucker housings. Gibson SG Standard, a regular left-handed version of the SG fitted with 2 extra frets to give Iommi the full 2 octaves which he prefers. The guitar is equipped with his signature pickup. Iommi was the first guitarist to have a signature pickup designed and built by Gibson. He also has another model fitted with a Floyd Rose floating tremolo. Fender Stratocaster. Iommi played a Fender Stratocaster that was spray-painted white by Iommi and his father during the early days with Black Sabbath. However, the pickup malfunctioned during the recording of their first album, so Iommi quickly turned to his backup Gibson SG to finish the record. Currently Iommi owns 2 Stratocasters, one of which has been modified with his signature pickup in the bridge position. BC Rich Ironbird, custom built for Iommi by BC Rich. Features include Timoteo pickups, 2 built-in preamps, scalloped fretboard and Iommi's trademark cross inlays. This guitar can be seen in Tony Starlick's video, for Starlick's Productions, along with a left-handed BC Rich Mockingbird. Gibson Barney Kessel, a rare left-handed version of the jazz guitarist Barney Kessel artist model, built sometime in the first half of the 1960s. Epiphone Riviera 12-string, originally a regular right-handed version in red finish that was converted by Epiphone to a left-handed version to fit Iommi. La Bella Custom Gauge Strings, Shure Wireless Systems, Effects, Tikka Braun Octavia, Tikka Bra Wah Pedal, Korg Rack Mount Delay Model SDD 1000, Boss Chorus Pedal, Korg Dale 8000 A Multi-Tap Delay, PAV Adverb 3, Boss Octave Divider, Trauma LX22 Compressor, Dallas Rangemaster Treble Booster, Amplifiers, Laney TI-100 Tony Iommi Signature, current main amp. 2-channel version of the GH100 Ti. Laney GH100 Ti Tony Iommi Signature Amplifiers, Iommi's main up from 1993 early 2012. ENGL Powerball Amplifiers, only used in 2009, Laney 4A, 12 cabinets, various Marshall amplifiers, from early to mid-1980s to 1993, including 9005 power amplifiers and 9001 preamps, 4A, 12 speaker cabinets, 2554 Silver Jubilee Combo, 2558 Silver Jubilee Combo, Paul Reed Smith modded JCM 800 head. Laney Supergroup heads, his main amplifier from 1968 to 1979, Orange 1972 with 4x12 cab only used for the filming of the music videos for Iron Man and Paranoid. Laney Culp, used on Master of Reality, Mesa Boogie Mark series heads, from the mid-1980s to the early 1990s, discography, solo, Iommi, the 1996 DEP sessions, fused, with Black Sabbath. With Heaven and Hell, live from Radio City Music Hall, The Devil You Know, Neon Nights, 30 Years of Heaven and Hell, Guest and Other Appearances, Various Artists, a Euro Heavy Metal Soundtrack, Various Artists, a Euro Rock Aid Armenia, Queen and Various Artists, a Euro The Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert, Diamond Head, a Euro Death and Progress, Ozzy Osbourne, a Euro Live and Loud, Cathedral, a Euro The Carnival Bazaar, Various Artists, a Euro Twang, a Euro A Tribute to Hank Marvin and the Shadows, Ozzy Osbourne, a Euro The Osman Cometh, Necromandus, a Euro Erexis of Death, Various Artists, a Euro Party at the Palace, The Queen, a Euro Unregistered Trademark S Concerts, Buckingham Palace, Ian Gillan, a Euro Gillan's Inn, Ian Gillan and Tony Iommi, a Euro Ian Gillan and Tony Iommi, Who Cares? References. Books. External links, official Tony Iommi website.